My name is Ellen Lindsay, and I'm the Executive Director here at AMSA Charter School. Came to AMSA, this is my 6th year. I came as a school counselor and was vice principal for a while, and I was principal for a couple years, and I'm coming up on my 2nd anniversary here in March as being Executive Director of the school. I want to let you know that the idea to actually have this forum tonight just specifically for 9th grade families, and then actually at 6 o'clock we're doing one just specifically for 12th grade families, was a suggestion that was made by a parent at our family forum back in December. They had messaged and said, you know, it'd be really great for especially the new students, and as our past 8th graders have moved into 9th grade, about what does high school look like at AMSA. Of course, we're in an unusual, unprecedented year. So this year, as your students are in 9th grade, looks nothing like it would on a regular year. But we thought that it was important to bring you all together in that we have some questions that were submitted ahead of time. We can open it up then for additional questions. But the purpose of the, of the forum tonight is really to talk about 9th grade concerns. You know, what does it look like to go through 4 years of high school at AMSA? Kate Driver, who's our Director of School Counseling, is here with us tonight also. There's usually questions around how do transcripts work and what's the importance of a high school transcript, and you know, what type of support do the counselors provide to kids as they move through high school. And so Kate will be here to answer those questions for you as well. There's just four questions here that we received ahead of time. One was asking about remote learning. I do want to let you know that the decision about third term will be coming out. We just did a survey with the teachers that opened up yesterday, and so we're collecting data and information from them this week. And so, you know, the decision is still outstanding. But as you know, COVID numbers are still up in our state. And so, and with the hopes of a vaccine to come, we really have our fingers crossed that, as they say, educators are in phase 2. And so we have a lot on our minds right now about what to do third term. I will just update you very quickly that there are some repairs that need to be done on the HVAC system. Those repairs are out for bid right now. You may remember that I've talked about certification process for the airflow, and when they came in to do that certification process over winter break, it was determined that we needed a new control system in all 3 buildings that controls the dampers going up and down, which controls the airflow. Right now, when temperature has been met in a room, according to the thermostat, the damper closes, and therefore there's no air circulation happening once the temperature has been satisfied. So there's still some lingering concerns about that, and our Director of Facilities is working on getting that fixed. So there's still some things going on there. I don't have a lot more information for you at the moment, other than that. But there'll be a letter coming out. My hope is that by the end of next week. I do want you to know that we are very aware that your kids need to be in school and that we need to be in school with them. I do believe that under the circumstances, excuse me, that we are offering the best remote system that we can. But there's nothing ideal about a completely remote system. There's certainly nothing ideal about a hybrid system either. And so, you know, we're looking at all of those things as we go forward. The meeting tonight isn't really about that necessarily, although I know that impacts your students this year. But it's really about what's it like to be in high school at AMSA. There was a question about MCAS, and you know, that's up in the air. I was in a meeting with the commissioner I believe it was last Thursday, and he did, you know, talk about MCAS quite a bit. MCAS, you know, there's federal funding connected to that type of accountability testing on the state. And I think right now they're in a holding pattern, waiting to see what's going to happen with the new Secretary of Education coming in shortly. And they're going to see what kind of policies there are around that. At this point, you know, we've been told that we just need to hold on and wait to see what's going to happen for the spring. They haven't given us any information yet about current 10th graders or about students who were in 11th grade, who are in 11th grade this year, 10th grade last year. They told us on the call on Thursday that we would be getting more information in the next several weeks. So your students, as far as the biology exam is concerned for June, I'm going to assume at the moment that is on, unless I hear something else. What the state will do with those results, we don't know at this time what that's going to look like either. Commissioner has said that it would be used for data purposes and maybe not necessarily for accountability, depending upon what the federal government said. So that's the update that we have on MCAS. There was a question about math and math support, and I'm going to lead that question to Mike Naraki and Brianna. There's a question about school counseling for the 9th grade students, and Kate Driver can take that one about contacting counselors and how to go about that and what to do if you don't hear back. And there's also a question about Zoom fatigue and some suggestions around teachers being more creative about getting students to participate, small group work, and concerns about students not having face-to-face time with teachers and generally missing out on so many things. I wish that we could change all the situation. We all do. I think all of us spend way too much time talking about the what ifs and if only. I wish I had answers for you. Some days we're all up and we all feel like we've got this and we're ready to take on the whatever it is, the next step. And then, the next day was like, oh, if only. So it's, I think it's up and down for all of us as individuals. And so I wish that we could solve all of that. I think that our priority, I think over the years, not when I was young so much, but over the years that schools have become so much to so many. They've become part of the community. They've been part of a social structure. They've become, an emotional social support for students, and a place to learn. And what seems to have happened is COVID has put us in a situation where the school can't be the center of all those things, or we can't be the primary providers of it, because we're far apart at the moment. And that doesn't mean that we don't want to be, or that we don't want to support your children, because we certainly do. We got some sports going this winter. We've got basketball going, we've got swimming going. But our basketball varsity and JV teams got shut down because of COVID. They were only going for, a couple of weeks maybe, and they've got shut down. And so, I think about that. It didn't take long for COVID to come into the basketball team. And I think about that and know that if the people that had COVID had come into school, then we could have had spread there, and now you've got teachers out and things like that, and other kids sick and bring it into their families. And so although maybe schools aren't super spreader events, they certainly are a place where people are spreading it to some degree before the schools quickly shut things down. So it's a lot to think about. It's a lot of responsibility. And we are definitely working through the process. So our academics have the academics have always been extremely important to AMSA. It's what we're about. We're a school. We educate kids. We want to educate your kids, and we need to really buckle down and focus on the education and do the best we can to help them socialize, and to be able to stay as emotionally healthy as we most possibly can. And our counselors are there to support you if you need help with your students, if you're worried about them. So I'm going to turn the time over to Mike and Brianna, so we have time for your questions, any other questions that are coming up as well.
Okay, I can jump in. So those of you who may be new parents out there and haven't had a chance to meet or see us through Zoom, my name is Mike Naraki. I'm the principal at AMSA. About to hit year 11 calendar years very soon. For my tenure at AMSA, I love the school, love being a part of it. This year has been quite a challenge. Thank you to everyone out there who has been. Everybody's been very supportive and patient as we work through all of these challenges that we're facing, on our campus and across the country, across the globe. So thank you all, and thank you all for taking the time to come out tonight. One of the questions that Ellen brought up had to do with the math intervention program. So Brianna Murphy, if you don't mind, I'll kick it over to you to introduce yourself real quick, and you can talk a little bit more about some math support program that we do have in place, which is run by one of our recently retired teachers, Mr. David Peters, runs that math intervention program. So, Brianna, if you want to introduce and just mention how students can get linked into that potentially.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I'm, excuse me, I'm Brianna Murphy, the vice principal. This is my 9th year at the school. I was first hired teaching middle and high school history and did that for about 7 years before coming into this role. So I definitely, understand and have witnessed firsthand that the transition from middle school to high school. So we have just launched some more like student support tutoring type programs within the past few weeks that have gotten off the ground. These are going to be primarily driven by teacher recommendations to begin with. And so if there's any concerns with your students' support or progress in their classes, we definitely encourage you and also your student to reach out to their teacher and ask, what support is available to them. There's a whole reference process for these programs that we have in place, and again, that have just started. So if if you really feel like that is something of need or that would benefit your student, again, just reiterate that you're encouraged to reach out to their teacher directly and start a conversation about how to get them that support.
Kate, do you want to jump in now and just speak a little bit in general about the, I guess the counseling side of things for 9th grade, and maybe talk a little bit about the transcript process, maybe Naviance a little bit?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, I updated my school computer and now it is not behaving, so I'm on a personal computer that I don't usually Zoom on. So, hi, so nice to be here with you all. My name is Kate Driver. I'm the Director of School Counseling. This is my 4th year at AMSA. So I'm here to talk with you a little bit about kind of some of the nitty-gritty things that are important to begin thinking about as your children start high school. I think I want to start by saying that, there's advice that I would give you all if we were in person, and I'm going to give you some of the same advice, but some of it's a little different. So really for 9th graders, we stress students taking the time to explore things that they're interested in, focusing on doing the best they can in their classes, identifying what they like less, and getting involved in just a couple, 1, 2, maybe 3 activities that are meaningful for them, if possible, that they enjoy. So we really stress exploring and learning in your 9th grade year. Obviously, it's a little bit more difficult to be involved in co-curricular activities in quite the same way as we could if we were all together. So I think I stand by that, and there are lots of different clubs and organizations at AMSA that students can still get involved with remotely. And so I think it may look a little different than some of them expected, but I think it's still important for them to begin to experiment a little bit and to be involved in student organizations or or other things they're interested in. If they like volunteering, excuse me, if they're involved in something already outside of school, continuing to think about spending time deepening those relationships that they have is really important. I think that when we eventually get to the college admissions process, there's often a frantic rush to, fill up a resume. And that's really kind of the wrong idea as far as I'm concerned. Colleges and universities want to see kids who have really devoted time and energy to a few things that they're authentically interested in, and that they have followed their interests and their passions and learned about themselves. Not that they were the president of this and did that and that and that and that and that and couldn't really tell you a lot about any one thing because they're just stretched too thin. So real deep, longer term engagement in activities of value for the student is really important. So that's sort of one side of this. The other side is the academics. We like to think about students' transcripts in a couple of ways. So at the end of 4 years of high school, students have a transcript. It includes a record of each classes they took each year, the level of the class, CP, honors, advanced, AP, accelerated. And then it also has information about the grades that they earned. At AMSA, we only report final grades on our transcript until the senior year. So when your students are seniors, the only thing that they'll see from ninth grade is the final ninth grade grades. They don't see each quarter. They don't see a midterm. They just see the full year. So I think that's really good to remember. If students are applying for something in between, then we do have a transcript that has more detail and shows the quarter grades. But when we're looking at, what's going out to colleges, universities, scholarships, that's just the final grade information until senior year. And then during senior year, we include first quarter and second quarter grades because colleges want to see how they're doing during senior year. We do calculate a GPA. We include the GPA on the transcript. It's a weighted GPA. Students who take honors and AP classes, they receive a little more weight in the GPA itself. But a lot of schools, a lot of colleges and universities actually recalculate GPAs based on their own specifications because they want to try to compare a student from AMSA to a student from Natick to a student from South Dakota. And unless they kind of use their own formula to create their own GPA, it's difficult to do that. But we always report the weighted GPA. And we do not rank our students, nor do we report a rank to colleges and universities. And we think that's really important because we don't want it to all be about competition and who's at the top. We have lots of students who do very, very well. And often, the GPAs are pretty closely packed. And it's really hard for me to say, what's the difference between the number 11 kid in the class and the number 12 or 15 kid in the class. And so we at AMSA, we just don't want to do that. We don't like to think about our students that way. And so we really let their academics stand on their own. So I think in ninth grade, it's really important for students to just do their best, especially for these kids living through a global pandemic and trying to do their best. Colleges know that. Colleges are looking at kids right now who are living through this as seniors. And I think that they know that this year is not going to be something that they can just forget about. The grades from this ninth grade year will always be sort of presented with an asterisk for the colleges to say like, yep, and this was that year. And so if you have a student who is struggling, they're not alone, and they're not alone at AMSA, and they're also not alone, with kids from quite literally around the world. So again, just doing your best is really important. We also know that there are some students who struggle early on in ninth grade and then kind of figure it out and they get better. And there is a place for everyone who wants to continue their education after high school, even if ninth grade is rocky. It may mean that some top tier universities are more difficult, but there are places that students can still consider attending. And a lot of colleges really look for improvement and upward trajectory and promise. We always look at student potential, and that's one of the best parts about being in education, I think. So I think that's all that I have to say. One more thing. If you want to look at the AMSA high school profile, it's a document that's 4 pages, and we do our best to explain AMSA to someone who's looking at our school and evaluating our transcripts. It's available. I'm sure someone will pop it in the chat. If not, I can in a minute, but we send it whenever we send transcripts to colleges and universities. So if you want to take a look at that, that's the information that will be going with transcripts, if and when your students apply to colleges in a couple of years. I know I've referred to colleges a lot, and my focus is actually much greater than just college and university, but I know that's actually what a lot of folks are thinking about right now and beginning to think about in ninth grade. Ninth grade is the year that things start to quote unquote count in a way that they may not have counted externally prior to ninth grade. So hopefully that's helpful. I'll hang around a little bit and see if there's other questions. Mike, is there anything else you wanted me to talk about, or?
Naviance. Just Naviance.
Oh, Naviance. Okay, sure. So we have a college and career development program called Naviance. It's something that we use very extensively with students in junior and senior year. There's a lot of different tools that students can use to do career assessments, interest inventories, and then eventually they use it as a tool to search for colleges and universities. So we will be giving the ninth graders access to that this spring. We have not done that yet. Typically we do it through PE, and we have a seminar that we are hoping to someday truly be able to deliver in person to all our kids. So we're working on figuring out exactly how that will work, but they will get that information for Naviance to log in this spring. They'll get it in their email, and then we will have some suggestions of lessons and things that we'd like them to consider doing. They're not graded on it. It's purely for their own enrichment, but it's a really helpful tool, and it's a really powerful tool. And it's something that you as parents will also have access to. You will have a read-only account of your student's account, so you can play around a little bit with it too. It's always fun to take a look at. So.
Kate, there was one question, that the concern around having a difficult time getting a hold of the counselor. Would you like that parent to reach out to you directly?
Absolutely. They can reach out to me. I think I did read it, and I think it said, the question is like, are they very busy? And I think any given day, yes. I think as we're all trying to figure out how to navigate all the different priorities that we have in our lives, our counselors, it's the same thing. And so it's very possible that an email slipped by somebody. It happens to me once in a while too. So please, feel free to email again and just say, hey, not sure if you got my email. If or if you'd rather just email me, that's fine. And I'll make sure you get what you need. For our ninth grade counselor, the best way to get a hold of her is by email for students as well. So if students want to make an appointment to see her, they work with Sarah Pantano, who's been in AMSA for, I think, 14 years now. She's also our high school adjustment counselor, so she does split her time between two different roles. But she's worked with our kind of younger high school students for years. And if students want to meet with her, they can just shoot her an email, and she will work to find a time that works for them. And I'm k.driver@amsax.org, and I'll put that in the chat. So you guys can certainly email me if you have any questions. Good to go?
Yeah, thanks, Kate. You covered quite a bit there. I think just to add to that last piece, if any parents or students have any difficulty, if they send an email to any staff member at AMSA, we do have a communication protocol that is posted on our website. I believe it's under Student Life. Maybe Mr. Finkel can work his magic and throw the link in there. But we do refer students and parents in that direction to the protocol. So if you do reach out, we have the expectation as staff members to communicate back to families within 48 hours, 2 business days. So if you do not receive anything back, like Kate said, you could just reach out to the counselor in this case and just say, hey, I'm not sure if you received my email, or at that point in time, you could contact the department head for that particular department, wherever the teacher or staff member, whatever the department they work under. And then
Yeah, can I jump back in, Mike, and say one other thing?
Yes.
There's one
Yep.
other question that came up. Does AMSA provide, I'm just going to read it because I think it's a good question and maybe many of you are thinking it as well. Does AMSA provide students with a path to top tier colleges and universities? I know a lot of students from AMSA choose to go to UMass, but I'm curious about applications and then acceptances to Ivy and top tier schools. Yeah, we have a good track record of a fair amount of really top tier colleges and universities. We have a couple, it depends on the year, but we do have Ivy acceptances at some points as well. I think one thing that's really important to remember in terms of looking at any acceptance list and decisions that are made, I think it's really important to think about all the different factors that actually end up going into that decision. And we've had many kids who are certainly top tier students and who may even get accepted at very competitive colleges and universities that decide to attend UMass Amherst for a variety of reasons. Some of them include, facilities or programs that they're genuinely excited about, and also cost. I think we know that there are a lot of students in our school who are planning for graduate degrees. And it's really interesting, but what I hear students, and it happens to me often, who say, oh, and I'm planning to go and get my master's in this, my PhD in that, my doctorate in that, my JD in this. I don't think I knew what a JD was when I was in 11th grade. I'm pretty sure I didn't know that term. And so we have kids who are already thinking forward to, what am I going to do once I have my bachelor's degree? And for some of them, especially based on, if you are someone who, may be kind of considered middle income and your income is high enough that you're not going to get a lot of financial aid, but not high enough that you can write a check. And you know that your kid is going to want to go to, 3 to 7 more years of school. UMass Amherst may feel like, or UMass Lowell or what have you, may feel like a really smart choice. And I think it's really important to kind of think about, like, are our kids prepared for top tier universities? Absolutely. Are they accepted to those universities? Yes. Is it exceedingly competitive to get into those places? Yes, definitely. And in some ways, especially because we're located in the Northeast, I think it can make it a little bit trickier. If you were a top student, I don't know why I came up with South Dakota earlier, but you might have a geographic advantage to get into some of those places where in Massachusetts it can be really difficult. But our kids certainly are competitive. We've heard that from universities, and some years we're lucky and some years we're not. But it doesn't mean our kids aren't great, and it also doesn't mean they're not ready and that they're not reviewed, with great respect by those institutions. So I think that's important. Our yield list is very different. And there's a lot, as many of you know, if you have older kids who've gone through the process, there's so much that goes into your decisions about applications and where you end up, that, hopefully ends up being more than a recognizable name. Even though sometimes at the beginning of the process, that can be where we start out, as places that you've heard of and that you know of. So it's a journey, I think, but hopefully that helps a little bit.
Thanks, Kate. So at this point in time, we could, if anyone has any specific questions, how do we want to do this? You guys,
I was gonna
type
say
into the chat.
Just before, just because I'm anticipating this might be a question, just to quickly review upcoming course selection for next year. So teachers last week just started putting in recommendations for the level that they feel is most appropriate for the students. And then within the next few weeks, they will complete that process. And then on February 10th, students will begin to have access to their through Plus portals to request classes for next year. And then February 25th will be the deadline for students to submit those requests. So I'll put those dates in the chat really quickly so that you all have them. 1 second, just going to copy this. So it's a very similar process to what your students went through last year. Again, I know we have some new families who are likely in here tonight, so that process will be less familiar, but we use a very similar timeline and all that. As always, if students have questions about what they're recommended for, they should absolutely reach out to their teacher, especially in this remote setting. It's obviously so much more difficult to have those one-on-one conversations, you know, even in the minutes before class and or after class like we normally would do. So we definitely encourage you, you know, reach out to teachers. I'm sure teachers are going to be figuring out a way to have those conversations in light of being remote. But again, it can, as you can imagine, it can be kind of difficult to do that. And just remember, not only do you have the ability to, our students have the ability to email teachers, but we also have those set office hours on Mondays, and that would be a great time for students to check in with their teachers as well if they want to explore, again, those recommendations in further detail with their teachers.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Miss Murphy. And on February 10th, when we open up the course request course process for the students, there will be an email that's sent out to all families and students in grades 8 through 11. And I believe last year we had many resources for families and students to use. I believe we had a tutorial video on how to navigate through Plus Portals, just a simple general video on how it will look on the student's end. So all of that information will be provided on the 10th when everything opens up, just so everybody knows. So we want questions to come in through the chat, or I mean, if people want to unmute and chime in, that would be perfectly fine as well. Oh, I think something just popped up
There
here.
was a question about where can we get a list. Kevin, take a look at the top of the chat, and you're going to see the high school profile that Mike Finkel added in to the link there at 5:30. That will take you right to the profile. It's 4 pages long, and there's one page that lists, and oh, there he's added it in again, the colleges where a lot of our students have been accepted. I will, just as you're getting ready to look at the program of studies, which we also put the link in the chat, is to take a look at our research program. I don't know if we've done a good enough job really advertising that, but it's definitely a priority that Dr. Giray and I and Mike and Brianna have, is really promoting that program and getting more kids involved. It's a wonderful hands-on experience. Scott Giray, the head of our science department, it puts together a graduate level research class. They're actually doing cancer research. There's more information on that on the website. And it's a fantastic opportunity, especially for students who really want to get into a lab and see how things actually work. We've got a pretty impressive setup up there of things that Scott's been working on for years. And a number of our students have really been able to differentiate themselves by getting involved in that program. It does make them different on their application and on their transcript. And a great entry point for that is 10th grade. So please consider looking at that. There's some information about it in the program of studies. And also Scott talks about it. If you look onto the science link on the science department on the website, you'll see there's a short video with some slides that Scott's talking about the science department. And he talks about the research department. There's biochemistry, there's biology, there's the kids do research out in the back. Following around the snapping turtles and things like that, ecology. And so lots of great opportunities there. It should not be overlooked.
All right, nothing else is popping up right now. I do think 9th grade year, I think traditionally, I mean, from my own experience, I remember entering into freshman year was definitely a challenge, your first year of high school. And I want everybody to know we completely understand that communication is key. So continue, reach out to the school counselor, reach out to the teachers, encourage your children to use it, take advantage of office hours, and just communicate so that we can all work together, try and make this year as good as we can, make it as good an experience as we possibly can for your students. I think something else just popped up here.
I think that's a question maybe Kate can take about the 10th grade curriculum.
Sure.
Yeah.
The 10th grade curriculum, and what courses do they take in 10th grade?
They take chemistry as a science.
Yep, so they take chemistry, they take English 12, no, English 10.
English, yeah.
Sorry. It's been a long day of Zoom for me. I feel like I've been in like just 8 hours of meetings. So, okay. So they take English 10, they could take honors or CP. They take chemistry again at the honors or CP level. Students take US History 1, which is a graduation requirement as well. They take, in theory, the second year of their world language, which technically finishes off the language requirement for graduation from AMSA, but we strongly recommend that students consider 3 or 4 years of a world language. Let's see. And then in math, again, it really depends on what students are taking this year. Some students will be taking a second year of geometry and then their math class. Other students will be done with geometry. So it kind of depends on where they are. Math teachers should be able to answer those questions for students individually. And if you have questions as things continue to progress, you can email the individual math teachers about their recommendations and what they think. And then students in 10th grade should be considering, well, they take PE and health. That's important, which is a graduation requirement. And then they should really be considering where are they, what are they taking in 9th grade toward their graduation requirements, and then what should they take in 10th grade. So our students need to take 28 credits, and this is all in our student handbook.
And the program of studies as well.
And the program of studies. So it's easy to find. But students need to take 28 credits. There are a couple of specific elective credits though that they need. So they need to take 2 half-credit courses in fine art, and they need to take 3 half-credit courses or 1.5 credits total in computer science. So we do have some students that meet that computer science requirement by taking Java, and then they take the full year AP computer science class. Other students just take 3 sort of separate half credits of computer science over their 4 years at AMSA. Then in terms of other offerings that begin to open up for them, our 9th graders, some of them may be eligible and interested in taking AP European history. We have some 10th graders who begin to take that. We have some 10th graders who take AP biology. And then we have some 10th graders, there's another one, who take APCS. I already said that one. Those are really the 3 AP options that make the most sense for our 10th graders, and that they're kind of ready for and eligible for. Occasionally we have a one-off of a younger student who might take something in AP math, but again, talk to your math teacher. And then I think it's really important if students are thinking about taking an AP course that they begin to talk to their teacher now, that they ask for the recommendation, and also that they think about what kind of time do they have and how do they like to spend their time. We really don't recommend taking an AP or an honors class for that matter, just for the sake of taking it. It's a lot of time and it's a lot of work. And when a kid's telling me they're on the fence about taking it or not, I usually say, how do you want to spend your time? Would you enjoy that class? Because taking AP biology just because you think you should be taking an AP, but you don't actually love biology, it's just not the right way to go. It's not worth it because it is a lot of investment of time. I think in that case, it would be better to wait until options that you are interested in open up for you in 11th or 12th grade, as opposed to just trying to get that kind of that check mark. So again, if you're going to take an AP class, it doesn't substitute for a class on the schedule in the core curriculum. So if a student, for example, is considering taking biology, they still also have to take the chemistry class. They don't get to say, well, I'll do chemistry, later. Like they still keep going on the other things. So it would be an extra, an add-on to their schedule, which would also probably mean that they're going to have to push off one of those possibly computer science or possibly art credits off until later, because in terms of their individual schedule, it's probably not going to fit everything. So they do have to begin to make some choices about what they want to be doing. We still recommend that students have a study hall. Having 8 credits is a lot, and so 7.5 credits is when it would allow students to still have one study hall in their schedule. Again, I'm assuming that we'll be back in person next year, and that all looks normal. And obviously, I can't make that. I don't know that, but that's sort of where I'm thinking anyway. So having that break in the day and some time to do homework is important. So we really do recommend considering that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else specific to 10th grade curriculum wise. The research program, again, being an opportunity that opens for students. Again, it's an add-on. It doesn't sub out something else. So that's important to think about. Students will still be in those core curriculum classes and PE. So yeah, and we'll be working with them, in February and then in March to help kind of finalize everything and get their course requests in, and then we will hopefully get kids their schedules at the beginning of the summer. That's always our goal. You're welcome.
Okay. If we don't have any other questions, I think we'll run off and get ready for our 12th grade 12th grade parent family forum. And if you have anything else that you would like to speak with us about or have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us or to any of our teachers. Be happy to help out. And we'll just keep communicating as we move through the rest of this year.